is simple: to educate and inform citizens about the candidates and issues facing them come November, and to promote positive civil discourse in the discussion of these very important issues. The three organizations believe that bipartisanship, not hyper-partisanship, best serves the citizens and our community, and it is with that spirit that we welcome those of you here tonight and all of you at home watching on PAC 14, and also in that spirit that we welcome our three candidates. On our left, we have our Republican candidate, Julie Giordano. In the middle, we have our Democratic candidate, Mr. Ernie Davis. And on the right here next to me is Mr. Miraboda, who's running on the Libertarian ticket. So with all that being said, let's begin. We're going to start all the way on the left with Julie Giordano. So you have 2 minutes to make your opening statement, and you may begin now.
Sure. My name is Julie Giordano, and I am running to be your next Wicomico County Executive. Just a little about me. I met my husband in 2005, and we were married in 2007. I have two amazing stepchildren, Jordan and Evan, and together we have a son, Jack, who is 12, who is a 7th grader at Mardella Middle and Senior High School. And I am currently in my 18th year teaching in Wicomico County Public Schools. I earned my bachelor's degree in communications with a concentration in public relations and a master's degree in leadership and administration. Besides teaching, I've worked as a human resources manager and a special events coordinator in the private sector, and have held a contractual position with the Maryland State Department of Education. Within our community, I am an MFRW member, a member of the Wicomico Republican Club, a member of the Delmarva Conservative Movement. I have served on our redistricting committee and was appointed as a member of our Women's Commission. But that's just my resume on paper. And I'm here to tell you tonight who I really am and what I stand for and what type of executive I plan to be. I am a teacher, a mom, a wife, a concerned citizen, and I stand for the national anthem and I say the pledge every morning. My heart beats for public and red, and I back the blue, and I bow my head in prayer. And in my house and in my classroom, respect is earned and hard work is recognized and rewarded. I salute our soldiers and veterans and honor our fallen heroes. I live and breathe by our Constitution. This county and the people in it mean everything to me, and I will be your voice, and I will fight for you each day. We are at a pivotal time in our county where we need a strong and active leader. We don't need an executive who supports the ideas of raising taxes. We don't need an executive who supports candidates who support defunding the police. And we do not need an executive who doesn't say much or who only represents the ideals and values of one municipality. So after tonight, I hope to earn your vote. I hope to inspire you to go out and be the change. Let your voice be heard, and let's bring active local leadership to Wicomico. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Davis, you have 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Good evening. My name is Ernest Davis. First of all, I want to thank PACE, Salisbury Greater, and Salisbury Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event. A little background on me. I was born and raised in Wicomico County. I'm the son of a Vietnam veteran who died serving this country. When I graduated from high school, James M. Bennett, I attended Salisbury University, Warwick Tech. I then attended Maryland State Police Academy, where I was a state trooper for 20 years, 8 of which I served the citizens of Wicomico County. I'm also a successful 30-year businessman. I presently run and own 2 businesses that I've been running for 30 years successfully. In 2014, I was elected to Wicomico County Council in District 1. I was re-elected in 2018. And presently, I'm the vice president of the council. During my time, 8 years on the council, the budget for the Sheriff's Department was approved for 8 years. And those 8 years, the budget has increased 50%. For the school system, we approved it for 8 years, and this past year, we gave an additional $1.2 million to the school for security and safety for the kids in our schools. Also, over those 8 years period of time, I increased funding for roads, for the continue the construction of the airport, which we greatly need to increase our revenue and business to come to this community. I approved the water and sewer system plan that was produced in front of us, and that would be one of my great achievements if I'm voted for county executive, to implement the water and sewer plan in Wicomico County, which some of you might know that we're the only county in the state that doesn't have water and sewer throughout the county. I also would fully fund broadband throughout the whole county, because we're one of the few counties in the state that does have broadband throughout the county, which will help our students. With this pandemic, we didn't have any broadband to help them assist them when they were home trying to do their work.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. All right. Mr. Boda, you have 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I want to thank PACE, Greater Salisbury Committee, and the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event. My name is Mira Boda. I'm currently the Vice President of the Salisbury City Council. I am a mostly lifelong resident of the Eastern Shore, born in Easton, grew up on Tillman Island. I'm the son of a waterman who was a son of a waterman who was a son of a waterman, and probably the son of a pirate or something back several hundred years ago. But I love the Eastern Shore. I love Wicomico County. And my wife and I, who we've been married since 1999, chose to live in Wicomico County. This is the place that we love. And I'm proud of the 7-year record that I've had on the Salisbury City Council. We are starting to see the fruit of this labor, which is, most of you know, is the Heroes Home package, which we have been working on for many years. In addition to that, many of my duties, I also work, I'm a full-time asset protection operations coach for Walmart. I've been there for about 29 years. I help manage complex retail environments, and generally we have anywhere from 300 to 400 people working in our stores that I help manage. So I have that decades-long experience. My duties as Salisbury City Council Vice President. I am also immediate past president for Eastern Shore Association Municipalities, which represents 56 towns and cities on the Eastern Shore in 8 counties. I have, on many occasions, testified in Annapolis, and I have strong relationships with all of our legislatures in Annapolis, regardless of political party. So what I offer on this table is fresh ideas, reimagining government in Wicomico County, and years of experience of managing people and managing and understanding and implementing municipal budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Boda. All right, so now that we've heard some opening statements from our 3 candidates up on the stage, we're going to turn things over to our 3 panelists who are right down here in the front. We're going to start with Mr. Sandy Pope of PACE at Salisbury University.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. First question. Some people in Wicomico County think the position of county executive may be unnecessary. Please explain to the voters what you think the job of county executive is and why it's needed.
We're going to start with Mr. Davis. You have 2 minutes. You may begin now.
The position of county executive was instrumented about 16 years ago by the citizens of Wicomico County. The position of the county executive is to oversee the day-to-day operation of the county government. Unfortunately, we do have a constitution that we must go by. We don't go by the U.S. Constitution. I learned a long time ago in the 8th grade, my civics teacher told me that any laws that is passed by the state or United States can't be overrun by the county. We have our own charter that governs our system and our citizens of the United States, of Wicomico, in which we go by. So there's no way we can override anything that's passed down from either federal government or from the state. So the job of the county executive would be to control and the day-to-day operation, which all the department heads that they have in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay, we're going to go to Mr. Boda next. You have 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Yeah, Ernie described, when, county executive position came about, and there was concerns during that time because the county council only meets every 2 weeks. And so sometimes there's issues such as emergency issues. We have it in the city all of the time, where you need somebody to make the decision, and I guess they felt that a county administrator was not that person. So the voters chose. My view of the county executive position, and as one who believes in limited government, is that the county executive role is general services. And in describing to voters who sometimes when you're knocking on doors, they don't know what a county executive is, I describe to them it's simply basically the mayor of the county. They run basically 10, 11, 12 departments, 400 to 500 employees. That is the overall goal. The county executive is not over the sheriff's department. We have a sheriff, duly elected, not over the state's attorney's office. State's attorney, duly elected, not over the clerk of the court, not over the school system. We have a school board. That's their job, and they're elected. The role of the county executive with all of those individuals is partnership. And so that's the key in, working with them with their budgets. You don't dictate policy in the school. You don't dictate policy to the sheriff. You work as a partnership and work with them on their needs.
Thank you, Mr. Boda. Okay, we go now to Ms. Giordano. You have 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Actually, could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. Some people in Wicomico County think the position of county executive may be unnecessary. Please explain to the voters what you think the job of county executive is and why it's needed.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure I keep hearing definitions of what the county executive is. So the county executive is the voice of the people. It is the elected position. It is the people's choice as to who is going to lead Wicomico County. And how lucky we are to have the charter form of government, to be able to have somebody to represent our people and be the voice of our people. So yes, by definition, it is the person who oversees the departments. It is the person who oversees and approves the budget, or brings the budget forward, but it's about what the people wanted, and it is necessary. I visited various parts of the county, and you notice lots of similar issues and concerns, and people agree that the county, they're right, they don't know what the county executive does, and I have made it my goal and mission for people to understand how important this role is and how they need an active voice. We need somebody who's willing to work with the people. We need to have somebody willing to work in our schools. We need to have somebody willing to work with our department heads and with our council, but most importantly, to work with the people. And so it's just the people's position, and so it is necessary so the people feel represented.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Mr. Mike Dunn of the Greater Salisbury Committee.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. Please explain to the voters what the Wicomico County revenue cap is and whether you think it's good policy as it stands or if you think it's policy that needs to be revisited.
We will start with Mr. Boda. You have 2 minutes and may begin now.
So a few years before the county executive role came into being, around that same time, there were issues throughout the state and even in Wicomico County where property taxes rose based on property values going up. And many people throughout in different areas of the shore, used to paying a few $100 a year in property tax, and all of a sudden their property tax doubles, triples. I know personally family in Talbot County who lost their family homes because of it. They weren't prepared for that. So Wicomico County came up with a program called the revenue cap, where essentially through your real estate taxes, the county cannot raise or generate more revenue more than 2% from the prior year. And so that put a ultimate goal on restraining the ability for either through massive increase in property value or a government that wanted to raise taxes 4 or 5%, they can't. So that's why that came in. I think to some extent it's a good thing. Maybe there could be some minor tweaks to it, especially with the Here is Home that's coming, because you're looking at 8,100 units coming online, and the county essentially will be lowering property taxes for those that pay county property taxes. So is there something in there where some of these properties that are coming along should pay their fair share like everybody else has, maybe. But I think the revenue cap in and of itself is a good thing and should stay in place.
Thank you. We go now to Ms. Giordano. You have 2 minutes and may begin now.
Sure, the revenue cap limits the amount of property tax to be collected, not to exceed 2%. And that's what happens when you raise taxes 14%. And as far as the revenue cap is concerned, it will be left in place. I'm here to increase your quality of life in our county, not your property taxes. I plan to grow the business community here in our county, bringing more jobs and job opportunities, not just simply raising people's taxes. Right now, there are a lot of people hurting in this county, and the last thing they need is a property tax increase. Right now, there are people who can barely afford their groceries. Did you know that 47% of people in this county are utilizing the Maryland Eastern Shore Food Bank because of the rising price of food? We have businesses that can't pay their rent on time, people who can't get gas on Thursday because they don't get paid till Friday. They can't afford a property tax right now, and I will not do that to them.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, you have 2 minutes, and you may begin now.
The revenue cap, tax cap, was brought on years ago. It was during a recession, and when the county was in need of lots of money, and at that time, the council raised the taxes substantially. And the revenue cap was brought on by a group of people, and that's when it came about. The tax, as you said, we can't raise it no more than 2% per year, but it is right now, it's strangling the county. It's not going to hurt anyone. As you can notice, your property tax for the last several years has gone down because of the property tax, and you also need to look at what revenue as the county is bringing in is also dropping. With all the demands that's going to be placed on the county with the coming years, with the fire and EMS, with the airport, we need roads because of the state has cut roads money. I'm not going to say we need to get rid of the tax cap, but we need to sit down with a group of people and educate ourselves and revamp the tax cap.
Thank you. So I have a follow-up question for you guys, the candidates. So it's been estimated that the revenue cap works best when inflation is about 2%. We know that inflation is at 8.3% as of the most recent numbers. So with that being said, do you think that this will be sustainable if these numbers continue to stay at the levels that they're at? I'll give you each a minute to respond, and we'll start with Mr. Davis.
No, it won't be sustainable. It's going to really put a stranglehold on the county because the tax cap will still keep us at 2%, that we cannot raise taxes. So it's really going to put a stranglehold. If we go into a recession right now, it's going to really put a hurt on Wicomico County.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, you have 1 minute.
Well, we've already been through one recession with the revenue cap, and we came out on the other end of it in pretty good shape. What hurt us the most was when the state of Maryland pulled the highway user revenue, and we had to lay off our entire roads division in the county at that time. That's what really hurt us, and it wasn't necessarily the revenue cap. The county has $50+ million in surplus. So I think they've done a great job on managing money and putting money in surplus with the revenue cap and through a recession.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 1 minute.
I actually very much agree with Councilman Boda. So right now we are not hurting for money. We're sitting at $52 million sitting in our reserve. I really see no need at this point, and the projection actually has us bringing in $12 million more this year. We should be able to lower the taxes again. So in all honesty, I mean, right now the 2% is not hurting us at this point.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Bill Chambers with the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, candidates. Wicomico County is the only county in the state that does not offer tax differential, also known as a tax set-off to its municipalities. More than half of the county's residents live in municipalities and therefore are double taxed for services they do not receive from Wicomico County. Do you plan to address this tax differential as county executive? If so, how will you? And if not, why won't you?
We're going to start with Ms. Giordano. You have 2 minutes, and you may begin now.
Sure, thank you. As far as the tax differential is concerned, I recognize that we are the only county in the state of Maryland that does not have the tax differential. The last study that was conducted for the tax differential was done in 2010, and it only included Salisbury, Fruitland, and Delmar. After visiting the various municipalities, Pittsville has also mentioned to me some concerns of the tax differential or the lack thereof. I want those municipalities to know that I hear you and I am willing to work with you. And I am definitely willing to do another study since the data from 2010 obviously is no longer relevant. And we can see how we can help our town municipalities and our citizens who are double taxed for services. I need these municipalities to understand that this is not going to be a one-size-fits-all, but I'm willing to sit down with Darlene Kerr in Fruitland and work out a deal. I'm willing to sit down with Ben Jordan and work out a deal that makes sense for Delmar. And I'm willing to sit down with Sean McHugh and work out a deal for Pittsville. And obviously, I will be willing to work with Mayor Jake D to see what's best for Salisbury.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, you have 2 minutes. You may begin now.
I've been on the council for 8 years, and I've been hearing about tax differential, but no one has ever brought it to us. I guess it's because the county executive position has got to come through them. I have no problem sitting down with all the municipalities to discuss what is their difference and what are they looking for with the tax differential. Being told that when you give up something, when you get something, you have to give up something. So it's not like the county's going to give you something and without something coming back, because we're not going to give away free money that's going to take money from the county just to please the municipalities. So I'm willing to sit down with every municipality and see what they want and how we can work these things out.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may begin now.
So, number one, I do believe that the tax differential is an issue that desperately needs to be looked at for a variety of reasons. Basically, municipalities provide services to their citizens that the county does not. Mainly that falls around police coverage. In Salisbury, it's also fire coverage. On the other end of that, the city of Salisbury subsidizes county residents for fire service. So they get millions of dollars a year in the Salisbury Fire District in fire service that they don't necessarily pay full price for. And so that's something when you're, it's a separate issue, but the way that we look at it, it's the same. And the same thing with Fruitland. Their fire department, their fire district serves people in the county. They don't just serve people, and it's even though it is a county fire department or a volunteer fire company. So, and basically this runs around police coverage because that's the biggest expense. And Pittsville comes into the equation because they now have a police department. So that's what brings them into that discussion. So it's, and there's other things that the county can do, not necessarily for Salisbury and Fruitland and even Delmar. But even with those, they can provide additional services. They can provide services such as street sweeping, such as assistance with grant writing on issues, because many of these towns work with the state, and the state has to deal with 50, or the ones down here with 56 towns trying to help many of them write grants who don't have grant writers. So there's things the county can implement and do and provide value to these towns, because Sharptown, Salisbury, Willards, Pittsville, Hebron, Fruitland, they all pay full county taxes. And, some of them do get more county services, but some of them don't.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Pope.
Approximately half of all private homes in Wicomico County do not have public water and sewer services. Many of the existing private systems are failing, and replacement is very costly. This seems to be one of the top issues facing the county. Would you plan to make this a priority of your term as county executive? If so, what would you do? If not, why not?
Mr. Davis, 2 minutes. You may begin.
Yes, it would be a priority. My first initiative would be hire a grant writer, which would go out and get funding to implement this project. Second of all, I would implement a sanitation department. We don't have a sanitation department. And then hire a director who would guide us and lead us in implementing this fully water and sewer system. And we would go back, we would start from the beginning, because they've started some things now that didn't go good with the state. So we would go back to the drawing board, start from the beginning with the state, sit down with the state and see what will and have to be done to get this done. And then after we get the direction from the state, we would then sit down with the municipalities and see what and if they are willing to participate with the water and sewer plans. Because there is some towns that don't want to participate with the water and sewer. They have their own. But there are some that will, and we will be willing to sit down with them and talk it out and see what they can and will be willing to do.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Yeah, this is certainly the biggest item that's facing our county right now, this issue. And so you've got many of the towns are struggling with their sewer systems. I mean, Salisbury, we've had our $100 million struggles. But understand, this is a massive project. It's going to take many years. And the initial price tag was around $240 million, and that's just for sewer. There are issues that are coming to light, and trust me, the county will want to look at putting in water as well. You don't want to do sewer without water. And by the way, while we have everything dug up, let's drop conduit for broadband, partner with Maryland Broadband Cooperative, and deliver broadband while we're doing this project, because then you bring in competition, even in areas where Comcast is. They're the only game in town for a lot of people in our county. Let's offer them choices, and this competition makes a better product. So I think there's three things that we can do with that, but the water has to be considered. And certainly the price tag is looking probably around $500 million, and that's just for the first 5 areas that we got to do. So it's not for the faint of heart. It has to be in it for the long haul, and it has to be done, because these properties are not perking, especially if they've got to replace failing septic systems. And newer properties, they're not approving the perks, and if you do, it's going to be at least $30,000 for the mound system. So this is something that has to be done. It will help with the economy, it will help expand business, and it will give our residents good, clean drinking water, flushing everything right, protecting our environment. I think it's all around is a good thing, but it is going to be expensive.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 2 minutes. You may begin.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the water and sewer goes, I would first like to commend Mike and the assembled team of the 25 people who have been working diligently, working on a plan. But also the town municipal leaders who took the time to attend a meeting expressing their concerns about the water and sewer. And they actually offered solutions for ways to expand and service residents in Wicomico County. So my plan for Public Works is to continue those efforts put forth by all parties. I plan to appoint a CEO, for lack of better term, for the water and sewer plan. And after speaking with Matt Drew, who is part of this assembled team, we have several great engineers who would be more than willing to spearhead that project. I also plan, in addition, to have a director of Public Works to keep overseeing the roads in the landfill, as they cannot be ignored. This is not going to be a one-size-fits-all. What's needed on Old Ocean City Road is different than the roads behind the Safford dealership. It's not going to be the same, and so we are going to have some creative thinking. And so I hope that they have a really good team in place, so I'm trusting their efforts right now, but I do plan to continue what these gentlemen have done. So thanks.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Mr. Dunn.
Please share with us 1 or 2 grand ideas or game-changing ideas that you would propose as county executive, and please be specific.
Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may begin.
All right. Big idea number 1. It's time that we look at and reimagine government and how government serves people in our county. Our structure is somewhat antiquated, and one of the things that we did in Salisbury was take a look at it and completely restructure how our government works, eliminate departments, combine departments, create new departments if we need to. And this has increased efficiency, it's increased service, and I think that's one thing, one of the first things we would begin the process of is looking at that. And forming a work group. This isn't just a one-person thing. Forming a work group of 1 Democrat, 1 Republican from the county council as part of the group, and then bringing in members of the Greater Salisbury Committee, Chamber of Commerce, and other interested groups in our county, municipal leaders from each of our municipalities to be a part of this process. Big idea number 2 is fire service. One of the first things I would do is put together a fire service commission, and the fire service would be from the Wicomico County Fire Chiefs Association, other members from all the fire departments, municipalities, to begin looking at the next 15, 20, 25 years down the road, 25,000 feet in the air. What do we think fire service is going to be? What we know is that volunteers coming into being volunteers is dwindling. They're not coming in. Because to be a volunteer, there's required hours every month, there's required training, there's required meetings, plus answering calls. So you have a lot of people who simply in this day and age, because of their economic situations and many families, 2-income jobs. I have 2 jobs. My wife has 1 job now because she was lucky enough to retire from the other one. But that's how many families are in that situation. So we've got to reimagine fire service. The EMS situation is another major issue that we have to address, and it really has to be countywide EMS. They work for the county. We pay them. We pay their benefits. We pay their retirement, and that's going to critically attract people to be paramedics and EMTs instead of all of our paramedics and EMTs going to Ocean City, Snow Hill, Anne Arundel County.
Thank you.
And you're welcome.
Okay. We're going to go to Ms. Giordano now. 2
Sure.
minutes. You may begin.
In visiting various parts of the county, you begin to notice similar concerns. And so how my administration is going to be different is that the needs of the county are going to determine and drive the leadership style. And we plan to focus on changes in the county. As Councilman Davis and I both reiterated in the last forum, the lack of leadership currently is what motivated both of us to run for county executive. And we both agreed that a change in leadership needed to happen. And I want to make sure to first keep open communication with various groups here in the county. This includes our municipalities, our fire departments, our police, our small businesses, but most importantly, our citizens. As I've campaigned over the last year, the biggest complaint that I hear is that there's little to no communication from the executive office. This needs to change because it's an office of the people. Second, I want to bring the government to people. Once a month, I plan to follow in the footsteps of the late Bob Culver, and once a month travel around the county with my administrative team as well as our department heads and have a town hall style meeting. We will listen to the needs and the concerns of the community. Third, I plan to view this wonderful area of the shore as a region. I want to take a regional approach when it comes to leading this county. When I look at someone like Bill Chambers, who's head of the Chamber of Commerce, he has meetings in Somerset, he has meetings in Worcester and Ocean City, and the airport, the Tri-County Council, we are all set up to be part of a region. And so when we compartmentalize, that's when we fail. There's just not enough of us here on the lower shore to go alone. So my plan is to reach out to the other elected officials at the county level, and we have to blur those lines and come at this full force because we are a strong, united force. Wicomico is the economic engine that drives this shore, and we have a great balance of the various aspects of being rural and having a city and 2 higher-level education institutions, a port, an airport, a civic center, and a Fortune 500 company. And so we have to take the lead in a regional approach, which is what I intend to do.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 2 minutes. You may begin.
The first thing we need to do is fulfill the jobs in the county government. For those who don't know, for the previous 2 years, we've lost a lot of positions to salaries to our neighboring counties. If we're going to operate as government, we need to fulfill those jobs, and that's what I would do first, is fulfill and aggressively go after those people to come and fulfill the jobs that we need to effectively run the government. Second, we need to do is implement broadband. We're one of the few counties in the state that don't have broadband. Again, you see it restricts everybody. Broadband affects everyone. So we need to go out and get the money. We had the money presented to us from the state by Delegate Cerise Sample Hughes, but Wicomico County was the last one to take hold of it, so we got a little piece of the pie. So now we must aggressively go out and get our money to bring broadband to the county. And that'd be one of the things that would come here effectively to effectively work the county, which we need to do.
Thank you. So our next 2 questions are going to be coming from you guys, the audience. So I will turn it over to Mr. Chambers to read the first one.
Okay, candidates, audience question. Can you explain your financial expertise in your own life and why that qualifies you to be county executive?
We'll begin with Ms. Giordano, 2 minutes. You may start now.
Sure, I think that was geared right towards me. So yeah, that's fine. It's a good thing that we have a financial director because she handles most of the financial stuff here in the county, and Pam Oland is amazing. And so I will be looking to her for a lot of guidance. As far as financially in my life, of course, we've all had issues. You know, I made it barely out of the recession in 2008. My husband and I worked diligently to make sure that we would be able to overcome. And I think when you are given a financial challenge and you are able to overcome it, I think that that shows what type of leader you are. And we made it. He's right here in front of me, and we are here, and we have made it, and I've made it to this stage. And so in my life, I've made some mistakes, but I definitely have learned from them. And so I hope to kind of, push that knowledge, for me as a leader as well.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, you have 2 minutes. You may begin.
As I made in my previous statement, for the past 30 years, I've been operating 2 businesses that I started from the ground up. And I've successfully and still successfully operating those businesses. I've been on the council for 8 years. For 8 years, we passed a balanced budget. So I'm familiar with the budget and how it works and what it takes to make this county run. So those are my qualifications to make sure that I'll be the county executive.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may begin.
Over the past 29 years, I've worked for Walmart, which is classified, the ones that I've worked at have been classified as complex retail environments. My position is essentially CSO, Chief Security Officer, and CFO, Chief Financial Officer, because part of my job is sifting through various issues with $120 million businesses. I regularly travel to other stores to help them with their issues and struggles. That's what I do professionally. Personally, I let my wife handle most of the finances because, and as Ms. Giordano said, Pam Oland, I've known Pam Oland for 15 years. She is fantastic. So, and I would never have anybody else in mind to replace her at that position. So,
thank you. Our next audience question will come from Mr. Pope.
We have a few questions from the audience about the relationship with Wicomico Public Schools. So please let us know how involved you would hope to be and what role, if elected, you would hope to play in the school system.
We'll begin with Mr. Davis. 2 minutes. You may start now.
As you know, the county executive, that's one position that we cannot go in and tell what they must do. I will work diligently with the new superintendent. I've had talks with him, and one of the things we would work on is getting the graduation rate up. We got one of the lowest graduation rate in the state. I would love to see us push it over 90%. It's down at 83%. And I would like to increase the funding that we give per pupil in the school system. Right now, we're at $3,200. Cecil County had this exact number of kids going to their school that we have, and they're giving $5,900 per pupil. I would like to see that raised so we can compete with the other schools, especially with the Kerwin coming on. By 2025, we're required to make sure that beginning salary for a teacher is $60,000. So I would start now to implement and push money into the budget for the school system so we wouldn't be strapped with 2025 to reach that figure.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may begin.
Yeah, the role of the county executive with education, and I think Ernie is kind of alluded to that, is one of what I view as partnership. You're there to be a partner, to be a cheerleader, to encourage them, help them plan for school construction. And frustration, some people view it as the county council and the executive have to be rubber stamps for the school board. I don't see that. I see it more as a partnership because it is a huge budget, and it's not just from county taxes that they get state money, they get federal funding, grants. So it's more partnership and planning and being that cheerleader there, encouraging them when they succeed and encouraging them to succeed.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 2 minutes. You may begin.
Sure. I just want to inform both of you that throwing money at an issue never solves a problem. Teachers are not in to teach for the salary. I am a teacher. I've been teaching for 18 years, and never once have I ever said, oh, I'm doing this for my paycheck. We're doing this for the kids. The schools have much deeper issues than the salaries of the teachers. When it comes to education in Wicomico County, there is nothing that is more important. Councilman Davis has numerous times stated that the county executive, there's nothing we can do but write the maintenance of effort check for over $50 million. And as the executive, we don't get involved in school business. I'm sorry, we could not think more differently when it comes to this. If you choose to be uninvolved, that's up to you. I, however, plan to have a more different approach. As your next county executive, I plan to greet our students on the very first day of school. I plan to attend Rock and Roll Revival. I plan to see kids play in state championship games. I plan to attend drama club performances. So there's more ways of getting involved than just writing a maintenance of effort check. In our schools, we need to be teaching children how to think and not what to think. We need parent involvement. We shouldn't be limiting how many parents get to speak at school board meetings. Our parents' voices matter. And when it comes to our children's education, we need to bring our community stakeholders back into our schools. We need to remember that students that are graduating from Wicomico County Public Schools need to be prepared. They need to be prepared for either college or work, and they need to be prepared to be productive members of society.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Dunn.
The Police Accountability Board took a while to get off the ground here in Wicomico County. We were one of the last counties in the state to get the board up and running. What are your thoughts on the Police Accountability Board, and how will you ensure that it succeeds?
Mr. Boda, 2 minutes, you may begin.
I think with any profession, accountability is good. In this situation, and this is from someone whose municipality has a police department, we have our own processes for accountability within Salisbury. This legislation, unfortunately, and a lot of this is stuff being shoved down to municipalities. And the requirements for many of the positions, I think one of the concerns was, who are we going to find for a chair? Because they didn't know if they had anybody that was retired with, I think it was 20 years that they were required to be the chair. So there are a lot of issues like that I just don't like it when the state rams stuff down our throat. And then with it comes a whole bunch of other mandates of, you have to do this, you have to do this. And stuff, even this in June, stuff was coming down that was due July 1st. We were still getting tons of stuff coming in telling us what we can and can't do. And this stuff is horrible when it comes to the state in this fashion. Not saying it's not a good thing. It's just, I never like it when the state shoves it down your throat and basically don't care if you like it or not, you have to do it. That's the issue with a lot of times things that come out of Annapolis. And, you know, there's a supermajority, so a lot of times many of my friends are Republicans. You know, there's only so much they can do, you know, and sometimes it's make change, the best change they can to soften the blow, but sometimes when the train's coming through, you either get out of the way or you get run over.
Thank you. We go to Ms. Giordano, 2 minutes, you may begin.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question where I stand with our police. After receiving the endorsement from our state and local FOP and the endorsement from our sheriff, Mike Lewis, and the endorsement of JT Tyler, our fire chief in Powellville, and getting the support of our state's attorney, Jamie Dykes, our citizens and first responders trust and know who they want in the role as executive. This accountability board, I don't like it at all. I'm not saying accountability isn't good, it is good, but this was based on reactive legislation. We are building the plane as we fly it with the guys that put on bulletproof vests every single day. We have citizens that are going to get a 40-hour class to make decisions and judge somebody on a split-second decision. I don't agree with it at all. Now, I know that it's coming down from the state and there's not much that I can do, but the FOP was never informed about any candidates for the police accountability. The council was presented the people with little to no timing to even vet or ask questions. These people were put in front of them, and we had a day or two to make the decision that these were going to be the people that are determining the fate of our police officers. I'm not saying I don't agree with the accountability part, and I'm not saying I can do anything about the Police Accountability Board, but I do hope I really do hope that I am able to kind of even come in and maybe even present a new board, somebody who has been vetted, somebody who has had questions asked of them, that the council is able to talk to and at least, get some information from.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 2 minutes, you may begin.
Unfortunately, I listened to both of them talk, but the people on the board, they are qualified. There is someone on there that has 20 years that has been retired. And these people were not appointed by the council. They were done, and it was stated that it must be approved by the county executive. So those names were brought to us by the county executive. We were not there to dispute them. We were just there to agree with them because the state said that the county executive had that power to do that. As far as the accountability bill overall, I'm a former retired state trooper, and I look at it like this. If you're out there doing your job, you're doing what you're supposed to do, you don't have anything to worry about. I think this accountability bill is for those few police officers, those bad police officers that are out there doing what they shouldn't be doing. 99% of the police officers, and I look at the ones in Wicomico, they're doing a fine job. If they're out there doing their job, they don't have anything to worry about as far as this accountability bill.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question for you, for each of you. So each of you mentioned, this is legislation that was passed by the state. So really, as a county leader, you have no choice but to implement this board and make sure that it's doing its job. So we heard from each of you about your opinion on the creation of this board, but the second part of the question was, how will you ensure that it succeeds, whether you agree with having this board or not? We'll begin with Mr. Davis. 1 minute, please.
Again, making sure that the qualified people are put in the position that the state has set down that these people should meet, and make sure that it's full. And when it does come a time that it's being needed, make sure that the proper procedure is going through that has been laid down out in front of us.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 1 minute.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've seen with boards and commissions, and we have a lot in Salisbury, the county has a lot, every town has boards and commissions, is when people are coming up for their terms and within 6 months of their terms ending, we need to make sure, hey, are you going to put your name in again to stay on the board? If not, then we need to begin looking for a vacancy to ensure we fill it before that person comes out. So that process has to be started early to make sure that the board stays viable and that it has full membership.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 1 minute. You may begin.
Yeah, again, I think the hardest part that I have is that we have people making decisions with a 40-hour-week course. I know some of them have been officers and been retired, and some of them are great people. I guess in order for this to work, I think it's going to be one of those things that we are just going to have to keep up with education, making sure that they understand the law. I mean, we have officers that have to go through training for months and months and months, and like I said, we're having somebody with a 40-hour course determining their decision making. So I guess it's just going to be education, making sure that they are aware of the law, that they are aware of what happens, with police officers each day, allowing them to kind of put themselves in those shoes. I don't even know how you do that, but I guess just through extra education.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Mr. Chambers.
So candidates, early voting begins October 27th. It will also be time to cast ballots for county council and board of education candidates. In theory, entire new council and an entire new school board could be elected wholesale. What are your thoughts on changing the current election cycles and going with staggered terms for both county council and board of education, as many other Maryland counties already do?
We'll begin with Ms. Giordano. 2 minutes. You may begin.
Yeah, I actually think that is a fantastic idea. I think it is very hard knowing coming forward there could potentially be, well, there is going to be a new executive. There's going to be potentially a whole new council or a majority of a new council coming forth, and there's going to be a whole new school board. There's a lot of learning that has to happen. Staggering that actually I think is very beneficial for the citizens of the county and for us as well, as leaders of the county.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 2 minutes. You may begin.
We have been mulling that idea for several years on the council. The problem we were having with it was, if you're on that committee, who is the person that's going to decide it's going to run 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years? So that was the dilemma. I have no problem with staggering it, but trying to decide who is not going to run this time is going to have to run next time was the dilemma that we were stuck with on the council, because we've been mulling this idea around for a couple of years.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may begin.
The city of Salisbury was for many years in a election every 2 years. Mayor and 2 council members were elected 1 year, and then 3 council members were elected in what I always called the scrum. Mike was a part of that, I think, the scrum. But I think there's positives and negatives where you have layover from people who are on, and then you might have all new people. But the one thing in Salisbury that I saw with that, every 2 years there's always an election, and it just I want to say the environment was very contentious, and you were flipping back and forth. You might have continuity, but we had some serious issues where one group did a charter amendment to take health care benefits away from those council members who had it, and then 2 years later, when those council members got into power, they did a charter amendment to put that benefit back so that they could get their health insurance. So there's good and bad from both. I like the way that we have it now in the city because when we came in as a team, we developed a plan, and we had 4 years to aggressively implement some of the things that we were targeting as far as growth and everything in our city. So it can be good and it can be bad.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Mr. Pope.
We know that there has been a mass exodus of quality Wicomico County government employees to our neighboring counties over the last few years. As county executive, what will you do to attract and retain employees, or generally create conditions so that people want to work for Wicomico County?
We'll begin with Mr. Davis. 2 minutes. You may start now.
As I mentioned before, the reason why there's been a mass exodus is because of salaries. The neighboring counties has been producing more money than Wicomico has, and they've been going over there and grows. What I would do, we just had a salary study done. I didn't 100% agree with it. I would take each individual department and pull it out and compare it to your neighboring or local counties and what they're making. The survey that was done, it was just done in a broad spectrum, and it showed that you could get anywhere from $33,000 pay raise to a 50-cent pay raise, which made no sense. It didn't take and go into look at each individual person and their job title, and that's what I would do so we can sustain and keep the people we have, because we have good employees here in Wicomico County.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may begin.
So if you think you have problems now with employees leaving the county to go to Dorchester or Somerset or Worcester, wait until you get water and sewer, because when you're training certified people to be certified for water and sewer on your plants, you don't have to worry about Dorchester County or Somerset County. You're worrying about Baltimore, D.C., Anne Arundel County, places that can pay them twice as much. So that's when this comes, and you're talking about technical issues where people have to get chemical certifications that they are putting in the water that you drink. It's not rocket science, because rocket science is just put a bunch of fuel in a tank and shoot it up in the sky and see how far to go. This is people's lives. So that's going to be a big issue. So with water and sewer, you have to pay them well. Because if not, you're going to constantly be losing people, and it costs you more to try to hire new qualified people and train new people. So the county is far behind in salaries. And look at the Civic Center, I think they only got like 2 maintenance guys. One guy's getting ready to leave to go somewhere else. And so, it's all over, and it's it's something that it's a serious issue, and you have to pay your people right, especially for their experience, because if not, somebody's going to come along and steal them from you and pay them way more.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Sure, yeah. Just like these gentlemen said, the salary is the first and foremost thing. You know, we were looking at the salary study that was done, and Councilman Davis is right. I mean, there was 50-cent raises and $30,000 raises. And so it's definitely one of those things that we need to look at, and we need to pay our employees. I always tease Weston in Worcester County saying he's cut off. He's not allowed to take anybody else from us. The other thing here in Wicomico County that we lack is morale. I've talked to a lot of county employees. They don't like coming to work. They're getting yelled at, screamed at. They're short staffed. They're not getting paid. And so the morale definitely needs a change here. And I think a lot of that comes from a lack of leadership. They don't trust their government. They don't trust their leaders right now. And so hopefully whoever is elected will be able to instill that trust in Wicomico County employees. We also need to make Wicomico County a great place to come to and work, and that's going to come from our HR department. That's going to come from PR and tourism. We need to beef that up a little bit. Wicomico is a great place. We offer a lot of great things, and so I think that if we're able to advertise that and really show that we are a great place, I think that that will help.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Mr. Dunn.
This is a combination of one of our questions and an audience question. So affordable housing is fast becoming a hot topic locally and nationally. Rising housing costs and rising rents all over the county, including the fact that on November 1st, the emergency rental assistance is coming to an end. So housing costs is a challenge. What will you do as county executive to address the affordable housing and rent problems?
We'll begin with Mr. Boda. 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Help is on the way. 8,100 new units coming in the city of Salisbury, which is going to help alleviate over the next 5 years the what we refer to as a housing crisis of availability. When simple economics, no availability, the price goes up. Salisbury saw it when they had the 4-2, 4-3 law. That jacked up rents because there just wasn't enough places for all these new college students coming in. So we got like 400 houses getting ready to be built, single-family homes behind the center at Salisbury. They're starting that work now, plus some other units along with that. Those are going to be the first ones online. So if you're looking at the area, that's coming. Proud to be a part of that process. The other one is, working with all your municipalities and trying to see out what's their growth plan. How can they grow anymore with their existing water and sewer systems? But also looking for, if they've got ideas that they want to grow, be a partner. Help them move along that legislation. Anything we can do at the county level, we'll do it here. If we have to take some code and put it through a shredder, I'm all about that. If we have to go to Annapolis and get cornbread to help us with that, I'm all about that too. So it's being a full partner to your municipalities when they need it. And if they have to go up there, we should be right there beside them.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 2 minutes. You may start now.
Housing definitely is an issue here, and as Councilman Boda said, we do have new units going up. Delmar has a project that's getting ready to go up, and actually if you talk to all the municipalities, they're super worried about it. Salisbury might be the only one that is welcoming the new housing because we cannot handle the infrastructure. You were talking about the water and sewer. They're all at capacity at this point except for Salisbury, and so they are very concerned with new housing going up. So yes, housing is definitely an issue, but we have other issues as well. We need to make sure to get this water and sewer plan implemented, which is going to take years. We got to get our roads updated. Our schools are kind of bursting at the seams. So I know that people need housing, and I know that is an issue. But along with that, along with more housing is more people, which is causing issues in our infrastructure as well. So it's not just a housing issue. You have other issues as well.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 2 minutes. You may start now.
The housing market, as you would know, we have very few houses on the market now for sale. If you look back at Sussex County last year built 22 homes compared to 200 in Wicomico County. Reason being is because of the water and sewer. We don't have the water and sewer for these contractors to go out and build these homes because the health department put so many restrictions on you. When you build a house, you have to put these mound systems in, and you're required to have 2 or 3 acres just to build a home. If we were able to get this water and sewer and implement this water and sewer, of course it's going to take a while. and we could get these houses built on a steady pace. As far as these municipalities, they can grow. Whatever they can grow, they got the water or sewer in those municipalities, so they can build homes. All we need to do is we can hook up with the counties. County can hook up with these municipalities, expand their system if they're willing to, or go along to help expand the county system around those municipalities. Excuse me.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Chambers.
Candidates, it's almost a certainty that there will be a mix of Democrats and Republicans on the next county council. We all know that the partisan divide is deepening. What will you do as county executive to create a working relationship with the county council, and what will you do to try and bring about bipartisanship as the next county executive?
We'll begin with Ms. Giordano. You have 2 minutes. You may start now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think it's more than just building the county council relationship, and I know in the past that the executive has had kind of a tumultuous past with the county council. I've worked really hard to build relationships this past year in Wicomico County, not just for our council, but police, firemen, EMTs, business leaders. But I have a great relationship and a good working relationship right now with several of the council members. I rely on them. And so I think, coming in, it's about open communication. It's about collaboration. It's about respecting what each one brings to the table. What Councilman Joe Holloway brings to the table is going to be different than what Councilman Baker is going to bring to the table. And I think as an executive, you have to respect what all the strengths and weaknesses are of each of the council members and be able to work with them. As far as the partisanship and as far as, Democrat or Republican, after we're elected, that needs to be set off to the side. I met with Mayor Jake Day and had this exact conversation with him. And I said, we are a lot stronger together as a united force, not just with the council, but with all the municipal leaders as well. And so once we are elected, that the political aspect is set off to the side. It doesn't change who I am as a person. I'm always going to be a Republican. But when it comes to leading, it's about leading people and who is going to be the best. You have to make the best decision for all people, not just people in your party. And so with the council, that is the role that I plan to take. The Democrat and Republican, Libertarian, whatever it is, it has to be put off to the side. And so you have to figure out what's best for the people in Wicomico County.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 2 minutes. You may begin now.
In 2014, when I was elected, I was the lone Democrat on the council. I'm sitting there looking at two councilmen that were there when I was elected. I was told that I would have problems because of the Republicans I was working with. To this day, I have no problem with either one of those Republicans I started off with and still working with. We sit there, we might disagree, but the next day we're friends. We did business like we were supposed to. Whether we were Democrat, Republican, I got along with them. Whether they were Republican, female, male. So I've been there 8 years. I've been on the minority side, and I worked well with both parties, and we got things accomplished when I was there.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, you have 2 minutes. You may begin now.
The members of the current county council, I have great relationships with everybody. Ernie and I used to be neighbors. He used to use our house for directions to his because we had a big blue bubble over our pool. So I've known Ernie for almost 20 years. John Cannon, I've known John here for many years. Mr. Hall, former county council member John Hall is here. And I know that there's Josh Hastings was floating around here somewhere. Oh, there he is. Okay. I've known Josh since he was probably like this tall. So he graduated high school with my sister who lives in Sharptown and is also, you always use your sister as your treasurer. So that's the key to other financial questions that we had earlier. But, I've been for a time the lone Republican on the Salisbury City Council and currently the lone Libertarian on the lower shore. We have one on the upper shore. So trust me, I know what it's like to be on an island. But from that perspective, I don't look at the issues we face as partisan issues at local government. There's no Republican way, Democrat way, Libertarian way, bread and roses party way to pave a street, put in a sidewalk, manage infrastructure. So these issues are local issues. They're not partisan issues when we get down to the core. Everybody wants clean drinking water. Everybody wants to be able to flush their toilet and it goes where it's supposed to go, and the professional people that take care of that take care of that. My good friend Bunky Luffman's wife, if you need something done, let a Luffman handle it. So she handles our wastewater treatment plant. So that's, you want that service is not about partisanship. It's about doing what's right for the citizens.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to some questions that have been created specifically for each of you.
Oh boy.
So the first one will come from Mr. Pope.
Mr. Boda, historically third-party candidates fall short on Election Day. Tell us why you think your third-party candidacy will fare any better. And specifically, what does your path to victory on November 8th look like?
Well, continue knocking on doors, and then when you're dreaming about knocking on doors, go out and knock on doors. So yeah, it's third-party path is always tough. I was ran against Andy Harris in 2012 for Congress, and I knew I wasn't going to win. But this is a little bit different. I am to many in the county a known quantity. I've lived in Wicomico County for 24 of the past 30 years of my life, so I know a lot of people. I think my record on the city council, especially within the city, many residents, appreciate most of the things we've done. I apologize for the bike lanes and curbing ahead of time. Not all necessarily my ideas, but you can call the mayor's office if you want to talk about that. But certainly it's harder to raise money. It's harder to get people to endorse you. But I've had a few people support me. Our first county executive, Rick Pollard, has endorsed my candidacy. Rick is a good man and served our county well for 8 years, so I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Pretty sure all of my city council members, fellows support me. I know Angela Blake does. Jack. Sometimes Jack gives me this, depends on the day. I recognize it's a tough path. But sometimes it's about bringing forth ideas that I didn't feel were being discussed at the last forum. And, so that's kind of the critical thing is bringing something different, giving people another option, and offering my experience of both professional experience and government experience to address the issues that are facing us.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Dunn.
Mr. Davis, the transition from county council member to county executive is a big one. You've been on the council for 8 years, and by your own acknowledgement, you've been a quiet member of the council. Why should voters believe you have the leadership qualities to be the next county executive?
2 minutes, you may begin.
Just because I'm quiet doesn't mean I'm active. You look at my actions, the actions speak louder than words. You look at what I voted for. I vote for the county. I don't sit and vote for any particular group, special interests. I vote what's best for the county. So I don't sit and talk just to be talking. Like most people say, well, you don't talk. I don't talk because a lot of the stuff you don't need to talk about. We need to do action on. Some of the things that goes on in the council shouldn't go on. We should be out of there. We should be in meetings 3, 4, 5 hours, 2 hours max. So I'm not going to sit there and talk just to fulfill time. If you want to know something from me, you ask me. I'm going to tell you how it is, and that's it. I'm not going to sit there and argue with you. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do and get it done. Plain and simple.
Thank you. And our final specific candidate question comes from Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Giordano, there are competing visions within the Republican Party. Our current governor, Larry Hogan, represents one vision. Dan Cox, the Republican nominee to succeed our governor, represents another. What kind of Republican are you, and what do you say to people within your own party who are election deniers?
2 minutes, you may begin.
Wow. All right. So first and foremost, I did back Dan Cox. Dan Cox, and thank goodness I did. He won our county by 18 points and overall was our Republican nominee. I am the type of Republican that votes for the Republican because that's what we do in our party. As far as two different types of Republicans, I really don't feel that there are two different types of Republicans. I think that there are people out there that want to see a change made. I think that most Republicans are not happy with what's going on right now. I think most people want to see a change, in leadership as we speak. The type of Republican I am it's kind of... I'm a good Republican. I'm the Republican that wants to keep your taxes low. I'm the Republican that backs the blue. I'm the Republican that stands for our teachers and stands for our parents. That's the type of Republican I am. And I know a lot of people say, well, what if it's a Wes Moore administration and not a Dan Cox administration? And I'm not, either way, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a Dan Cox or Wes Moore administration, I am not going to sit back and take just what's given to me. I'm going to walk in, whether it's Dan Cox, who's a great friend of mine, or Wes Moore, who I've met and is lovely. But we are going to come into this with a regional approach. And it doesn't matter if it's Dan Cox as a Republican or Wes Moore. This is what the Eastern Shore is, and it's what the Eastern Shore's top priorities are. And so as an executive, it doesn't matter what type of Republican I am. It's what type of leader I am for the people of Wicomico County.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go back to the audience questions now. We have time for 2 questions. So the first audience question will come from Mr. Pope.
Please share some of your ideas for attracting residents and businesses to Wicomico County.
We're going to start with Ms. Giordano because those last 3 kind of skewed the order. So you have 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Yeah, sure. So I think we kind of hit on this. Wicomico County is a great place to live. I wasn't born here, and I don't love telling people that because people look at you like, oh, you're a come here, not a from here. But I have been here for 20 years. My husband and I go and visit my parents. They're right on the outskirts of Catonsville, and we cannot wait to come back to the shore. We can only stay up there for about a day or so. But to attract businesses here, I think that you need to understand how great of a place Wicomico County is. As I said, we have that rural feel here, but we also have a great city that's thriving right now under the leadership of Mayor Jake Day. We also have a Fortune 500 company. We're 30 minutes from the beach. So there's plenty of room and plenty of places for us to grow and thrive, but we need to advertise that. And that's why I'd love to beef up our tourism, our PR, and our human resources, because they should be reaching out to people to draw people here. They should be wanting to come here because right now, as I stated earlier, we are at a pivotal time in our county. We have so many great opportunities right here in front of us, and we need an executive who is willing to step forward and be able to bring those businesses in and bring those ideas in here.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 2 minutes. You may begin.
As she stated, we do have a great county. We need to advertise outside the county to let people know exactly what Wicomico has to offer. We have the 2nd largest airport in the state, 2nd largest port in the state. As you know, we're now expanding the runway at the airport so we can bring in larger commercial airplanes, and we're probably going to bring in another airline. So we got to promote and advertise what we're doing in the state so people on the outside know. As a school system, I've been on the school building commission. I went to Annapolis to fight to get West Salisbury built. We just completed Beaver Run. We're in the process of building Mardella. So we're upgrading our schools. People look at that. The upgrading of schools. We're putting money into school systems so we can educate our kids so people look for the great education that comes out of the schools.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may begin now.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would look at specifically to help our local businesses is to look at some of our regulations, specifically within the realm of alcohol control. Sometimes it's very restrictive. If you're a nonprofit and you're trying to hold an event, there's a million hoops you have to go through, and then you have to come up and kiss the ring of the county executive to be able to use a county park. So I think some of that stuff, honestly, I would like to take it and just, like I said, run it through a shredder, start all over with what you could do. Everything we can do locally to reduce regulation, I will do. If we have hurdles that needs to be done at Annapolis, go to Annapolis, and work on getting those things changed. I think that will help our restaurants, that will help our breweries, that will help our local economy in one facet. The other is promotion, branding. We need to rebrand the county, leverage the power of our tourism department, and use it to promote local events from our volunteer fire companies who have great events. They're great at raising money. If we promote that, we can even help them raise more money. So I think there's things like that, that leveraging, rebranding, and, putting regulations through the shredder. So.
Thank you. Our final audience question comes from Mr. Dunn.
This is an environmental question. Please tell us what environmental issue or issues you are most interested in and how you might approach addressing them as county executive.
Mr. Davis, 2 minutes. You may begin.
Right now, one of the pressing environmental issues right now is this DAF tank that we've been mulling over for the past 3 years. We need to put it to the table and end it. It's been dragging on too long, and I think we should, before this council is gone for the election, it need to be resolved, and I think it will happen. We have to make sure the farmers had the right to farm, and that's most of the environmental things that come down to farmers. They got restrictions that's placed on them, and we need to fight to make sure these restrictions aren't there to hinder these farmers in what they're doing in the day-to-day life.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 2 minutes. You may start now.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Davis there on the DAF tanks. They're, they don't smell very good, and those people that live near it, it significantly reduces their quality of life. The other issue, and I think it's still, we go back to water and sewer. That's going to, implementing the sewer systems, I think, is going to help with, protecting our creeks, protecting our rivers, and making that stuff more fishable and swimmable. The other issue, I think, is also stormwater management. So making sure that we are partnering with our municipalities on stormwater management in any way that we can assist, whether it's through grant writing, whether it's through writing letters of support, whether if they're going somewhere to go present something, we go with them. We show up to their meetings to be a partner. So I think those are my three key issues on the environment at the moment.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Giordano, 2 minutes. You may begin now.
I couldn't agree more with both of these gentlemen. The DAF tank definitely is a hot topic issue. I have met with the residents out there, and they are up in arms right now. I mean, they feel like their quality of life is being affected, but we also know that agriculture is the economic driver here, so we have to be very cautious about the word ban, things like that on DAF tanks. So definitely, I'm really hoping and praying that that the county council is able to kind of put this at rest as to what we're going to be doing with the DAF tank. And again, the water and sewer plan, it is definitely an issue. We have people on Old Ocean City Road right now that are struggling right now because there's no place for them to put a new septic system. And so those would be the top two environmental issues I plan to address.
All right, so that concludes the questions that we have, but of course we wouldn't let the candidates go without being able to make their closing remarks, and we actually have a little time so you guys can get 2.5 minutes instead of just 2 minutes. All right, so we will start with Mr. Boda, 2.5 minutes. You may begin now.
Jack doesn't give us 2.5 minutes at council meetings. But anyway, so, I'm honored to be up here. I'm honored for the people who have been supporting me, knocking on doors with me, and who have supported my campaign. The goal is to provide experienced leadership for Wicomico County, and I bring that to the table from a variety of different aspects, whether it's managing people, managing budgets, whether it's retail budgets of retail stores that are over $100 million and managing those types of inventories, to working with our mayor and other members of the council on municipal budgets, government budgets. And it's, the one thing I've always learned, we're not the federal government. We can't just go turn on a printer and print money and, hey, everything's great. We have to balance our budget every year. And, one of the hardest decisions every year that we take, the hardest decision every year is looking at our water and sewer system and ensuring that, we have the funds to provide that service to our city. So that's probably the hardest decision I've had to make is where we've had to raise our water and sewer rates, because you cannot run your water and sewer like a government. You have to run it like a business, because you have to have money in the bank. You have to save money to be able to pay for large-scale projects. You can't just always bond stuff out. You have to have sometimes millions of dollars in the bank to be able to handle an immediate issue if something goes up. and people need that service. So understanding that from the perspective of being a part of that process over the past 7 years, I think brings a unique perspective to this discussion with water and sewer. I respect both individuals, but neither one of them have the experience of understanding what it's like to be under consent from the state of Maryland for your sewer system. I mean, it's constant emails, it's constant concerns of, every time, the state's always going to change the goalposts while you're kicking the field goal. They're going to move it another 20 yards. So, that's something we have to recognize is when we're building these systems, we don't plan for the regulations now. You plan for the regulations that they're going to drop on you in 10 or 15 years because you want these systems to last. You can't continue to dump money into these systems because we didn't prepare for the future regulations that are coming. And they're coming. And they're still going to come for Salisbury. If we can do what we do, everybody else can do it, so we're going to lower the bar for everybody else to hit this point. So that's something we have to plan when we're doing this. And we have to recognize you need leadership in that position that has dealt with it and understands it. And so I bring that to the table. And so I hope everybody takes a look at everybody. There's great people on the stage. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Ernie. I've known him for 20 years. I respect any teacher who has to go through what they have to go through in a classroom every day, day in and day out.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 2.5 minutes. You may begin now.
Sure. I've traveled across this amazing county, and I have door knocked a lot of doors. One door in particular still stands out to me, and a gentleman answered, and he listened to my speech, and he said, "I absolutely love every single thing that you have said. Your ideas on public safety, your active role that you want to take in education, and you want to help our local economy grow and thrive." He did say, "I want to let you know I feel really bad for you, though. I follow you on Facebook. I see all the amazing things that you and your team are doing for our county. But out of all the great things you're doing, the media only covers the bad press." And I really got to thinking about that statement, and it really made me reflect on a lot of things. Did you know that my campaign manager has sent our local press over 20 press releases of all the great things that we did in the primary and what we're continuing to do? From endorsements to door knocking to a Fox News interview, and yet they covered none of it. Now, I'm not up here asking for a medal or some sort of certificate of achievement, but what I am asking is that you look at the hard work and dedication that my team has put forth, because that's how much we care about this county. Just as we have worked hard every single day during the campaign, we plan to work just as hard for you as citizens for these next 4 years. Based on what I've heard this evening, if you're more of a Democrat progressive, I feel like you have two fantastic candidates to choose from. One who's been endorsed by our previous Democratic county executive and who's campaigning with the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus, and the other Democratic nominee who's been endorsed by your teachers union. Councilman Davis claims that Wicomico needs a jump start, and as a matter of fact, that's his slogan, Jumpstart Wicomico. I feel like your slogan is comparing Wicomico to a dead car on the side of the road with the current leadership. And with all due respect, I don't think Wicomico needs a jump start. A jump start is a temporary fix to a much larger problem. Wicomico doesn't need a jump start, it needs a whole new engine. And so it's time to bring active local leadership to Wicomico County. I need you, and you people at home that are watching us out here, to get out and be the vote and be the change on November 8th. And hopefully you'll vote for me, Julie Giordano, for County Executive.
Thank you. We're going to finish. And Mr. Davis will close us out. You have 2.5 minutes. You may begin now.
Okay. We're going to start by doing a fact check. I've been labeled as going to be defunding the police department. I'm 20 years Maryland State Police. I was in the police academy with Sheriff Mike Lewis. As I stated earlier, between 8 years, we increased their budget by 50%. If you go on Nail Mill Road, you'll see we just put out money for a $38 million sheriff's department. So I don't know where that came from, that I'm defunding the police department. It also states that I'll be raising taxes. If you go check your tax record, your property tax bill for the last previous year, you would notice your tax rate has gone down. Your bill might increase because your house might have been assessed higher, but your tax rate has gone down. At no time in my 8 years on the council has anyone mentioned raising taxes. So again, look at the facts. And as far as endorsement, yes, I've been endorsed by the Wicomico County Teachers Association. I also have the endorsement of Delegate Speaker Pro Temp Sharice Sample Hughes, who's sitting here. I have the endorsement of the Speaker of the House. So I have a pipeline to Annapolis to get money and anything out of Annapolis. So as far as you saying that I don't speak much, I don't have to speak much. Action speaks louder than words. You check my record and what I voted for. I voted for things that made the county move. As far as Jumpstart, if you check the county for the last 8 years, the county has not moved. It's been stagnant. That's what I mean by Jumpstart. It's not a car. We need to get this county moving, and I'm the person to do that. I have the energy and I have the expertise as far as energy, the business sense. Again, I've operated a business for 30 years with no problems. So I'm your candidate for county executive.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So thank you again to our three candidates. I appreciate your candor and all the answers and information you provided tonight. Thank you to our sponsors, and most of all, at least for me, thank you to our audience. Again, it is so important to get out and get informed about who you're voting for. So I hope you're able to take all of this information you heard tonight and bring it with you to the polls in November. Other than that, have a great night, everyone.